The road to the old house was rough and quiet. Dry leaves covered the ground and the wind made the trees sway slowly. The car engine made a tired sound as Tom drove up the hill with his young daughter, Lena, sitting beside him. The house appeared at the end of the road, tall and lonely with broken windows and faded paint that once might have been white. Lena looked out of the window with wide eyes. She was only 8 years old, small and curious about everything. She pointed toward the house and asked in a soft voice, "This is our house?" Tom smiled, though he felt a little nervous inside. "Yes, Lena, this is our new home." She looked at him confused. "But it looks broken." He laughed kindly. "It only looks that way. We'll fix it. You'll see." The house had been empty for more than 15 years. The government had listed it for sale for only $1, trying to bring people back to small towns that had been forgotten. Tom had applied for the offer after losing his job at the car factory in the city. He had no savings left, no relatives to help, and only one dream: to give Lena a place they could call their own. When the papers arrived, and he saw that the house was his, he didn't think twice. He packed their few boxes and drove here with all the courage he had. They stepped out of the car and the cool wind brushed across their faces. The house stood tall, surrounded by long grass and trees. Its wooden porch creaked under their feet as they walked to the door. The key turned stiffly in the lock, and when the door opened, a faint smell of dust came out. Lena held Tom's hand tightly. "Is anyone inside?" Tom shook his head. "No one lives here now. It's just us." Inside, the air was still. Dust floated in the sunlight that came through the cracked windows. Old wallpaper hung loose from the walls and spiderwebs covered the corners. A broken chair lay in the middle of the room, and an empty picture frame leaned against the fireplace. Lena stepped carefully across the wooden floor and said, "It's big." "I like it." Tom smiled, feeling a little more hopeful. "Then it's perfect. You can have the biggest room upstairs." Her eyes lit up. "Can I paint it pink?"
"Any color you want," Tom said. They began to walk around.
The kitchen was old but still had a working sink. The stove looked rusty but not broken. Tom checked the water tap and was surprised to see clear water flow out. That gave him relief. It meant one less thing to worry about. He found a small switchboard near the kitchen door and turned it on. After a few seconds, a few dim lights flickered to life. The electricity was still working. He couldn't help but whisper a thankful word under his breath. Lena explored every corner of the house with excitement. She ran upstairs, her small footsteps echoing through the empty hall. The sound made the place feel alive again. She picked a room with a big window that looked over the forest. She opened the window, letting in the fresh air. Tom walked through the rest of the house, making notes in his mind of what needed fixing. He had worked as a mechanic before, and he liked repairing things. The walls needed painting, the floors needed cleaning, and the roof would have to be checked before winter. But he believed he could manage most of it on his own. In the evening, they brought in their few belongings from the car. Tom carried a small mattress, a few kitchen items, and 2 boxes of clothes. Lena carried a little picture frame of her mother and placed it carefully on the dusty mantel in the living room. "Now it feels like home," she said. Tom's chest tightened for a moment. His wife Mira had passed away when Lena was 6. She had always dreamed of living in a small house with a garden. Tom looked around and thought maybe in some way this was what she had wanted. After dinner, they sat together on the floor, eating noodles from paper bowls. The light bulb above them flickered softly. Lena looked around and asked, "Why did no one live here before?" Tom shrugged. "Maybe they moved away. Maybe they didn't like the quiet." She nodded, though she looked thoughtful. "It feels a little sad," she said. He looked at her and smiled. "We'll make it happy again." After cleaning up, Tom decided to check the basement. He had noticed a locked door at the back of the kitchen earlier. It had a thick chain across it and a small sign with faded letters that said, "Keep out." The lock was old and rusty. He tried to pull the chain gently, but it didn't move. The wood of the door felt cold under his hand. He wondered why someone would bother locking a basement in an abandoned house. He told himself he would deal with it tomorrow. It was late and Lena was already yawning. That night, the wind outside grew stronger. The old trees swayed and the house made strange groaning sounds. Tom lay on the floor beside Lena, who slept peacefully under a thin blanket. He kept staring at the ceiling, thinking about their future. Suddenly, he heard a faint sound. It came from below the floor, soft and distant like a hiss of air or maybe a pipe releasing pressure. He sat up quietly, listening carefully. The sound stopped after a few seconds. He waited, but it didn't come again. He looked toward the kitchen where the basement door stood in the dark. His thoughts turned uneasy. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe just the old pipes. The next morning, Tom woke up early. The air was cold and mist surrounded the trees outside. He made tea on the small stove and then walked around the house again, planning the repairs. He wanted to check the roof, fix the windows, and maybe clean the porch that day. While sweeping the kitchen floor, his broom hit something metallic near the door. He bent down and found a small old key half buried under the dust. It looked strange, heavy and dark with curved patterns carved into it. He turned it over in his hand and thought about the basement door. Could it be the key for that lock? Lena came in holding a slice of bread. "What's that?" she asked. "Maybe something that opens a mystery," he said with a grin. Her eyes widened with excitement. "Can we see what's inside?" Tom hesitated. The sign on the door said, "Keep out," and he didn't want to scare her if something dangerous was down there. But curiosity grew stronger inside him. He placed the key on the table. "After lunch," he said. "First we clean." Lena nodded happily and went back to her room. Tom looked at the key again. The metal felt warm in his hand even though the air was cold. He couldn't explain it, but something about it felt strange. As he stood there, a faint sound came again from the floor beneath him, a soft hum that seemed to move like a heartbeat. He froze. Then it stopped. He looked toward the basement door and felt a chill run down his spine. Whatever was down there, it wasn't just empty space or old pipes. Something waited below, silent and hidden. He didn't know yet that the discovery he was about to make would change both his and Lena's lives forever. Behind that door, under the layers of stone and dust, lay something that once belonged to a powerful man who vanished years ago. Something worth $78 million, and now it was waiting for Tom to open it. Morning sunlight filled the kitchen through the broken window, falling on the dusty table where the old key still rested. Tom sat beside it, drinking his tea slowly, his eyes fixed on the metal piece. It looked like something from another time. The shape of it was odd, and it had tiny curved patterns that made it feel almost handmade. Lena came running down the stairs with her messy hair and cheerful smile. "Are we going to open the basement today?" she asked eagerly. Tom smiled but didn't answer right away. He still felt unsure. The sign that said "Keep out" bothered him. Maybe there was something unsafe below. But then again, the house was theirs now. It was his right to know what was hidden inside. He finally said, "Yes, after breakfast, but we'll be careful." Lena clapped her hands in excitement. "I want to see what's down there." After eating, they prepared a few things. Tom brought a small flashlight, a hammer, and a toolbox. He also carried a mask because the basement could have dust or mold. Lena carried her little backpack filled with snacks, saying she would explore like an adventurer. They stood in front of the basement door. The chain was thick and rusty. The lock looked old but strong. Tom slid the strange key inside. It didn't fit at first, but after a small turn, there was a sharp click. The chain loosened. Tom pulled it away and slowly opened the door. A cold breath of air came from the darkness below. It smelled like old wood and stone. The stairs looked narrow and steep, covered with dust and cobwebs. "Stay behind me," Tom said softly. He turned on the flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness and showed the steps going down to a flat floor. He took a deep breath and began to move down carefully, step by step. The wood creaked under his shoes. Lena followed quietly, holding the edge of his jacket. At the bottom, they found a large room with stone walls. It was colder here, and the air felt heavier. There were shelves with old jars, tools, and boxes covered with thick layers of dust. Some furniture pieces were broken. A table stood in the center with papers scattered on it, eaten by time. Lena whispered, "It looks like someone lived here." Tom shone his light around. There were no signs of rats or mold, which surprised him. It looked like someone had sealed the place carefully before leaving. He walked toward the far wall where something caught his eye. A large metal door stood there, half hidden behind a wooden cabinet. It didn't look like a regular door. It was round and solid with a wheel handle in the center, like the kind used in old vaults. "What is that?" Lena asked. "I think it's a safe or maybe a storage room," Tom said. He moved the cabinet aside and touched the cold surface. The door had no keyhole, only the heavy wheel in the middle. Around the edge, faded letters were engraved in a language he didn't recognize. Tom turned the wheel gently, but it didn't move. He tried again, putting more strength, but it was stuck. He stepped back and rubbed his chin. "It's locked from inside," he said to himself. Lena walked around, shining her small flashlight that Tom had given her. She pointed at something near the table. "There's a box here." Tom went to her side. It was an old wooden chest with metal corners. The top was dusty but not locked. He opened it carefully. Inside were several papers, some coins, and a small notebook with a leather cover. He opened the notebook. The pages were yellow, filled with handwriting in black ink. The writing was neat and careful. The first page read, "Property of Harold Finch, 1976. Tom read the name aloud. Harold Finch, maybe the man who owned this house before. He turned a few pages. Most of it seemed like daily notes, lists of materials, and records of repair work. But one line caught his attention near the end of the notebook. It said, "The vault is complete. Only the right sequence will open it. The treasure stays safe until I return." Tom felt his heart beat faster. Treasure? He looked at Lena, who was watching him with wide eyes. "What does it mean?" she asked. "I don't know yet," he said, trying to sound calm. "But it means something valuable is behind that door." They searched the basement for more clues. Tom found a switch on the wall and flipped it. A single yellow light flickered to life above them. The wires still worked. He could see the room better now. There were old tools, empty cans, and one small metal box lying near the corner. Inside that box were 3 buttons colored red, green, and blue. Next to it was a faded paper with numbers and arrows drawn on it. It looked like a code. Tom studied it carefully but couldn't make sense of it yet. He decided to take the notebook and paper upstairs to examine them later. As they walked back up, Lena said quietly, "What if the treasure belongs to someone else?" Tom smiled at her kindness. If no one came back for all these years, maybe it belongs to no one now. But we'll see. Back in the kitchen, he cleaned the dust from the notebook and read more of it. It mentioned the town's old history and a project about hidden assets during the late 70s. Some pages had numbers and symbols, possibly a code for the vault. He looked at Lena. "This could be something important. But we won't rush. I need to understand it first." For the next 2 days, Tom worked around the house, fixing small things and thinking about the vault. At night, he sat with the notebook and tried to decode the strange numbers. They were written like dates and directions, maybe for turning the vault's wheel in certain orders. On the 3rd morning, while repairing the fence outside, an old man walked by. He wore a long coat and carried a stick. He stopped when he saw Tom. "You bought the Finch house?" the man asked. "Yes," Tom replied. "We moved in a few days ago." The old man looked surprised. "People usually stay away from it. Strange things happened there long ago." Tom asked, "Do you know anything about a man named Harold Finch?" The man nodded slowly. "I do. He was a rich inventor. Worked with metals and machines. Some say he hid a fortune before he disappeared." "Disappeared?" Tom repeated. The old man's eyes narrowed. "One night he just vanished. Police searched for months. No body, no trace. Some thought he ran away. Others said he hid something in that basement and never came out again." Tom felt a chill but tried to keep his voice steady. "Did anyone ever find anything?" The man shook his head. "No one could open that vault. They said it was impossible without his code. The government sealed the place years later." He walked away slowly, leaving Tom standing there thinking hard. That evening, Tom told Lena what he had learned. She looked both scared and excited. "So maybe the treasure is real," she said. "Maybe," Tom answered. "But we need to be careful." After dinner, when Lena went to sleep, Tom went back to the basement alone. The cold air met him again as he stepped down. He stood before the metal door and placed his hand on the wheel. The words from the notebook came to his mind. He began to turn the wheel, following the pattern he had figured out. Right, left, right, then stop at number 12. A low sound came from inside the door, like a click or a deep breath from the walls themselves. He stepped back, heart pounding. The wheel turned slightly on its own and stopped. A narrow line of light appeared around the door's edge. Tom's eyes widened. The vault was not empty. Something inside had just powered on, and the true secret of the Finch house was about to reveal itself. The cold air in the basement felt alive. The metal vault door stood in front of Tom. glowing faintly around the edges where the light escaped. A thin line ran across its surface, moving slowly like the door was breathing. He stepped closer, holding the flashlight tight in his hand. He could hear a quiet hum coming from inside the vault, a sound that didn't belong to an old house. It was steady and mechanical, like a hidden machine had just started running after years of silence. Tom's heart beat fast. He had only turned the wheel a few times, following the pattern from the notebook, and now the impossible was happening. The vault was unlocking itself. A click echoed through the basement. Then another. The heavy wheel began to spin on its own, slow and smooth, until it stopped with a deep metallic sound. The line of light grew wider. The door started to move forward, and a rush of cold air came out. Inside was darkness again, but it was not empty. Tom lifted his flashlight and looked inside carefully. The beam revealed a small metal room, built completely of steel plates. On the far side, there were several boxes, a desk with drawers, and a large machine covered with a dark cloth. Dust floated in the air like silver snow. He stepped in slowly, half afraid the floor might give way. But it was solid. The light from his flashlight reflected off the walls, showing marks and wires that hinted at something advanced for its time. Tom moved toward the desk first. He pulled one drawer open and found papers, blueprints, and a few faded photographs. One of them showed a man in a suit standing beside a strange machine that looked similar to the one covered in the room. The man had sharp eyes and a proud smile. The back of the photo had handwriting on it. Harold Finch, 1975. So it was true. This was his secret workshop. Tom turned his attention to the large machine. He grabbed the edge of the cloth and pulled it away. Underneath stood a device that looked part engine, part safe, with tubes, wires, and glass cylinders attached to it. Inside, the glass cylinders were sealed metal bars, shining under the flashlight beam. At first, he thought it was steel. Then he noticed the small label on one bar. It read 0999. Tom's breath caught. That was the scientific symbol for pure gold. He shone the light over the other cylinders. Each one held at least 4 gold bars. There were dozens of them stacked neatly inside the machine. He stepped back, almost unable to believe what he was seeing. If each bar was real, it would be worth millions. Tom whispered to himself, "This is the treasure." He felt dizzy for a moment. All the struggles of his life flashed before him. The long nights of work, the days he couldn't buy toys for Lena, the times they had to skip meals to pay rent. And now, hidden under the floor of a house he bought for $1, there was more wealth than he could ever imagine. But joy was quickly replaced by caution. Why was it hidden like this? Why had no one found it before? He looked back at the papers on the desk. Many of them were financial notes and records of gold shipments. Some mentioned a company name, Finch Metals International. Others had government stamps and coded numbers. It looked like Harold Finch had been involved in secret projects, maybe even illegal ones. Tom picked up another notebook from the drawer. It was thinner than the first one he found upstairs. The last page had a short message written in a hurry. "If you are reading this, the gold belongs to whoever can open this vault. Use it wisely. The world does not need another Finch." The handwriting was shaky, as if the man had written it quickly before leaving. Tom sat down on the cold floor, staring at the page. He didn't know if he should feel grateful or scared. He took a deep breath and decided to show everything to Lena in the morning. He didn't want her to come down at night. When he went upstairs, he closed the vault door but didn't lock it completely. He kept the notebook with him and stayed awake for hours thinking about what to do. The next day, the town woke up under a bright sky. Tom and Lena had breakfast near the window. Lena noticed that her father looked distracted. "What's wrong, Dad?" she asked. Tom looked at her and smiled gently. "Nothing bad. I just found something in the basement. Something important." Her eyes brightened. "Did you find treasure?" He hesitated, then said softly, "Maybe yes," Lena gasped. "Really, like in the movies?" "Something like that," Tom said. "But we can't tell anyone yet. We need to be careful," she nodded seriously. "It's our secret." Later that day, Tom went into town to buy supplies. He needed better tools to check the vault and maybe secure the house. At the hardware store, the same old man he met before saw him again. "Still fixing the Finch house?" the man asked. "Yes," Tom replied. "I opened the basement." The old man's expression changed slightly. "You should be careful down there. Finch was clever but dangerous. People said he worked on projects that the government wanted to forget. What kind of projects? Tom asked. Machines. Experiments. Money moved in strange ways. Then one day everything stopped. He locked himself in that basement for months. When the police came, he was gone. Only rumors left behind. Tom thanked him and left quickly. His mind was full of questions. If Harold Finch had disappeared after building that vault, what else was hidden inside? When he returned home, he found Lena sitting near the porch drawing pictures of the house. She had drawn a small door under the floor and colored it gold. He smiled at her imagination. After lunch, he decided to take her downstairs to show her the truth. The basement was darker than before. They stood in front of the vault, and Tom opened the door slowly. The hum returned immediately, steady and deep. Lena gasped when she saw the gold inside. Is it real? She asked. Tom nodded. I think so. She walked closer, eyes wide. We're rich? Tom smiled sadly. Maybe, but money can be dangerous. We have to think before we do anything. Lena touched one of the glass cylinders and stepped back quickly. It's warm, she said. Tom frowned and placed his hand near the machine. She was right. The metal was slightly warm, as if something inside was still running. He checked the sides and noticed a small light blinking near the base of the device. He crouched down and saw a power cable disappearing into the wall. He followed it and found a hidden switchboard with a small generator connected to it. It was old but still functioning. Somehow the machine had been powered all this time. Tom felt both amazed and uneasy. He pulled the lever to cut the power. The humming stopped immediately. He told Lena to go upstairs for safety. She obeyed, though she looked worried. Tom stayed for another hour examining the vault. He wanted to understand how it worked. Behind the machine, he found another panel with a metal plate bolted to the wall. The plate had a series of numbers carved on it, 78 million followed by the word secured. It was a record. The exact value of what was stored there. He whispered to himself, $78 million. The truth sank in. The treasure wasn't a legend. It was real and sitting beneath his house. That night, Tom locked the basement again and sat by the window thinking. Should he report it? Should he keep it hidden? It was more than he ever dreamed of, but he also feared what could happen if the wrong people found out. As he thought about it, he noticed a car slowing down outside the gate. The headlights flashed once, then the car drove away into the trees. No one else lived on that road. Tom's heartbeat quickened. Someone knew. The secret of the Finch house was no longer theirs alone. The morning started quiet, but Tom felt uneasy the moment he woke up. He kept thinking about the car he saw outside last night. It had stopped near the gate, flashed its lights once, and then vanished into the trees. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe someone had just taken a wrong turn, but the thought refused to leave his mind. He went to check the front yard. The grass was still wet from the night dew. He noticed fresh tire marks near the gate, deep enough to show that a vehicle had stopped there. That confirmed it. Someone had been watching the house. Inside, Lena was finishing her breakfast. She smiled when she saw him. Can we go into town today? Maybe later, Tom said. I need to check a few things first. He didn't want to worry her, so he didn't mention the car, but he kept glancing at the road, expecting to see someone return. After breakfast, he went down to the basement again. The vault was still there, silent and cold. The machine stood in the center of the room, and the gold bars shone faintly under the flashlight. He checked the lock twice and made sure the door was sealed tightly. As he turned to leave, something caught his attention. On the dusty floor near the stairs, there was a footprint. It was larger than his own and clearly fresh. The dust had been disturbed recently. His body froze. He had not been down here since last night. That meant someone else had entered the basement. He looked around quickly, shining the flashlight on every corner, but no one was there. The air felt heavier than before. He backed away slowly and climbed the stairs, locking the basement door behind him. When he came into the kitchen, Lena was drawing by the window. She looked up and asked, "Why are you breathing so fast?" Tom forced a smile. "Just checking something. All good," but his mind was racing. He decided he couldn't leave things like this. The house needed better locks. He also had to make sure no one else knew about the vault. He spent the next few hours fixing the doors and windows. He nailed the loose boards and added a second lock to the front door. When he went to the hardware store, he noticed the same old man from before sitting outside on a bench. The man lifted his head and looked at him. You seem worried, the old man said. Tom hesitated. Someone came near my house last night. The old man frowned. You should be careful. The Finch place always draws attention. Some people never stopped looking for what Harold Finch left behind. Tom lowered his voice. Do you know who they are? The man shook his head slowly. Different people. Some said they were treasure hunters. Others claimed to be from the government. All of them disappeared after getting too close. That answer didn't make Tom feel any better. He bought what he needed and returned home quickly. When he arrived, Lena was waiting for him on the porch. Someone came here, she said quietly. Tom's heart jumped. Who? A man. He knocked and asked if Mr. Finch lived here. I told him no, that my dad bought the house. Tom dropped the tools in his hand. Did he say anything else? He smiled and said he used to know Mr. Finch, then he left. Which way did he go? He walked toward the forest. Tom looked at the trees that surrounded the property. The forest was thick, and it was easy for anyone to hide there. He felt a mix of fear and anger rising inside him. Someone was watching them, maybe searching for the vault. That evening, Tom stayed alert. He closed every window, turned off most lights, and kept a hammer near him. Lena played with her dolls quietly, unaware of how serious things had become. When the night grew darker, Tom sat near the window and watched the gate. The same car appeared again, its headlights dimmed. It stopped in the same place as before. This time, Tom decided not to wait. He grabbed his flashlight and went outside. The air was cold and his breath made small clouds. He walked toward the gate slowly, keeping his steps silent. When he reached the road, the car started moving backward. Tom raised his flashlight and shone it on the windshield. For a second, he saw the driver's face. It was a man in a black coat with gray hair and sharp eyes. The man didn't look surprised. He just nodded once, then drove away into the forest road. Tom stood there for a long time, his heart beating fast. He knew that man would be back. Whoever he was, he knew too much about the house. The next morning, Tom made a plan. He decided to hide the gold before anyone else could find it. It didn't feel right to keep it in the basement anymore. It was too obvious. He spent half the day cleaning an old shed behind the house. The roof was broken in one corner, but it would do for now. He planned to move a few gold bars there at night while Lena was asleep. Before sunset, the old man from the town came again. He walked up the hill with his stick and called out, "Tom, I need to speak with you." Tom met him at the porch. The man looked serious. "I saw a stranger near your road. He was asking about Finch's vault. Be careful. People like that can cause trouble." Tom nodded. "Thank you for telling me," the old man sighed. Finch's fortune was never just gold. He had information, documents, and patents that were never released. Some of it might still be in that vault. You must guard it well. Tom's heart sank. This was bigger than he thought. It wasn't just money. It was something that could draw dangerous attention. That night, when the house was silent, Tom went to the basement again. He unlocked the vault and started taking out a few gold bars. He wrapped them in a blanket and carried them carefully to the shed. The air outside was cold, and the forest seemed to whisper with the wind. As he returned to the basement for another load, he noticed something strange. The machine was glowing faintly again, even though he had turned off its power days ago. He stepped closer. A small screen on the side had lit up with new words. Power restored. System active. Data transfer in progress. Tom didn't understand what it meant. He looked around for any sign of movement but saw nothing. Then he heard a faint sound upstairs. A door closing. He turned off his flashlight and stood still. Another sound followed, like soft footsteps moving through the hall. Someone was inside the house. Tom moved quietly up the stairs, holding the hammer tight in his hand. The lights were off, but he could see a shadow near the front door. It wasn't Lena. She was still asleep in her room. The shadow moved toward the kitchen, then paused near the basement door. The man's voice came softly. "You opened it, good." Tom's breath stopped. The voice belonged to the same man he saw in the car. Before the man could turn the basement handle, Tom stepped forward and said firmly, "Who are you and what do you want?" The stranger turned slowly, surprised but calm. "I'm someone who worked with Harold Finch. I know what you found." Tom didn't lower his hammer. "This is my house now." The man nodded. "Yes, it is. But what's inside that vault doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the government." Tom frowned. "Then show me proof." The man smiled faintly. "You won't live long enough to see it." Tom's muscles tightened. He took one step forward, ready to defend his home. The man backed away toward the door but didn't run. "I'll be back tomorrow," he said. "Make the right choice before then." Then he disappeared into the night. Tom locked the door again and ran to check on Lena. She was still sleeping peacefully. He sat beside her, his heart heavy with worry. The next morning he knew there was no time left. He had to protect the gold, the house, and his daughter. The real battle for the Finch treasure was about to begin. The morning light fell across the old house, but it did little to calm Tom's restless mind. He had barely slept. The memory of the stranger's words kept repeating in his head. The man had claimed to work with Harold Finch, the house's former owner, and he wanted what was inside the vault. Tom knew the man would return. He needed to act before that happened. He brewed coffee, sat at the table, and looked at Lena, who was still rubbing her eyes sleepily. "Dad, did you fix the noise last night?" she asked. Tom smiled softly. "Yes, sweetheart. Everything is fine." He did not want to frighten her, but inside he was preparing for anything. After breakfast, Tom took a notebook and began to make a list. He needed to move the gold to a safe place, hide the machine, and learn what the glowing screen meant. If the vault really held more than gold, maybe it had something powerful enough to change everything. He went down to the basement. The vault door stood open and the air smelled like metal and dust. The machine was still glowing faintly. The screen displayed new words. "Data transfer complete. Message available." Tom leaned closer. There was a small green button under the message. He pressed it. A soft mechanical sound came from inside the machine and a holographic image appeared. It showed a tall, thin man with silver hair and sharp blue eyes. "Greetings," the image said. "If you are seeing this, it means I, Harold Finch, am no longer alive. You have found what others could not. Inside this machine is not just gold. It holds the plans and codes for a system that could reshape global energy. It can create clean power from common minerals. I hid it here to keep it safe from those who would use it for greed." Tom listened carefully, stunned. The image continued. "If you found this place, you must decide whether to keep it hidden or share it with the world. But beware, others are still looking for it. Trust no one." The message ended and the hologram faded away. Tom stood there in silence. So this was the real secret. The gold was valuable, but the machine was priceless. It could change how the world produced energy. He realized that the stranger wanted this invention, not just the gold. Tom turned off the power and covered the machine with a thick cloth. Then he went upstairs and packed a few bags. He planned to take Lena and leave the house before nightfall. But as he looked out the window, his heart sank. A black car was already parked near the gate. The stranger had come back. Tom took a deep breath. He told Lena to stay upstairs in her room and keep the door locked. Then he walked to the porch. The man was standing near the gate holding a briefcase. "Good morning," the man said with a cold smile. "I told you I would return." Tom folded his arms. "You said the gold belongs to the government. I checked the machine. It's not gold you want. It's what Harold Finch invented." The man's expression changed slightly. "You should not have turned it on. You don't understand what you have there." "Then explain it," Tom said. The man stepped closer. "That machine is unstable. If it is not handled correctly, it could release massive energy. We have orders to secure it before that happens." Tom frowned. "Who gave you those orders?" The man hesitated. "That doesn't matter. Hand it over and you'll be rewarded." Tom's voice hardened. "You're not taking anything from this house." For a moment, the two men stared at each other in silence. Then the man sighed and said, "You are making a mistake, Mr. Tom, but you seem stubborn. I will not argue further." He turned to leave but stopped near his car. "If you won't give it to me, others will come. They are less polite." He got in the car and drove away. Tom knew the man was telling the truth. Others would come soon. He had to finish what Harold Finch started. He spent the next few hours trying to study the machine. He searched the vault and found a set of papers sealed in a metal box. Inside were sketches, equations, and handwritten notes. Finch had written everything down. One note read, "Only the core crystal controls the energy release. Remove it and the system becomes harmless." That gave Tom an idea. If he could remove the core and hide it elsewhere, the machine would be useless to anyone who tried to take it. He found a small panel at the back of the machine. With careful hands, he opened it and saw a glowing blue crystal the size of a lemon. It pulsed gently with light. He took it out and placed it inside a cloth pouch. The moment he did, the machine stopped glowing. The basement grew dark again. Tom put the pouch in his pocket and went upstairs. He told Lena they were going to visit the town for a while. She smiled, happy to go out, not knowing the danger they were escaping. They drove into town and stopped near the park. Tom met the old man who had warned him before. He told him everything about the machine and the stranger. The old man listened quietly. "I knew Harold Finch was a genius," he said. "He wanted to build something that would help the world, not destroy it." "You did the right thing by removing that crystal." "Keep it safe," Tom nodded. "I don't know who to trust." "What if they find us?" The old man put a hand on his shoulder. "They will search the house first. Hide the crystal somewhere far from it. Once you're safe, tell the authorities in another city. Don't stay here." Tom thanked him and took Lena for a walk in the park. He noticed a few men in dark clothes nearby, watching them from a distance. They looked like the stranger's associates. He led Lena to the car and drove toward the outskirts of town. When they reached a bridge over a wide river, Tom stopped the car. He took the pouch from his pocket, looked at it one last time, and dropped it into the water below. The blue crystal sank quickly out of sight. Lena looked confused. "What was that, Dad?" "Something that needs to stay hidden," he said. "It's better this way." They returned home at sunset. The house looked peaceful again, but Tom noticed the front door slightly open. He went inside and saw footprints on the floor. The basement door was broken. The men had come while they were gone. The vault was empty. The machine was gone. For a moment, Tom felt angry and helpless, but then he remembered the crystal. Without it, the machine was nothing but metal and wires. The thieves had taken an empty shell. He smiled faintly. Let them take it. The real power is gone. That night, Tom sat with Lena near the fireplace. She leaned against him and asked, "Are we going to leave this house?" Tom looked around the old living room. The walls still carried the scent of fresh wood and paint. The place had caused him fear, but it had also given him courage. "No," he said. "This is our home now. We'll fix it and make it safe again." Lena smiled. "I like this house." Outside, the wind blew gently through the trees. The danger had passed for now, but Tom knew one thing for certain. He might have lost the gold in the machine, but he had gained something more valuable: peace, safety, and a future for his daughter. He stood near the window and looked at the stars. The world might never know about Harold Finch's invention, but maybe that was for the best. Some secrets were too powerful to share. In the distance, the sound of sirens echoed faintly, signaling that the men who stole the machine were being chased. Tom whispered a quiet thank you to the night. The old $1 house had turned out to be far more than a home. It had been a test of courage, a journey through fear, and a lesson in trust, and now it truly belonged to them.